Hello everybody, welcome to our channel. Today we have a fun project. We're going to make this fall farmhouse sign with this little blue truck. It was really fun to make. Most of the items you need to make it are found at the Dollar Tree with a few exceptions. So let's go over the supply list first. So from the Dollar Tree, I purchased one of these DIY wooden trucks. You're also going to need some different ribbon, whichever you choose to your liking. You'll need some floral wire for the hanger and either a piece of wood that I just had, or you can use some of these wooden puzzles that Dollar Tree sells. We're also going to use one of their decorative pieces of wood for the sign at the top and some raffia. We're also going to use one of their disposable cookie sheets and some Mod Podge with a sponge brush, some different size paint brushes, and some different colors of paint, all of which you can find at the Dollar Tree. It's just a different brand, but we're going to use black, white, orange, and a light brown. We'll need a piece of paper, a pencil, and a popsicle stick. We're also going to need some permanent markers and some colored pencils, one of their paint pens, a rag, a ruler, and a pair of scissors. So now from Hobby Lobby, what I purchased was one sheet of this scrapbooking paper. They're 4 for $1. It's a 12 by 12 inch piece. It's called the Rebel Teal in Distress, and some of the Waverly Antiquing Wax. You can also get that in the Folgart brand. From Joann's, I purchased a bag of these Putka pods. They're $5.99 for the bag on sale. I will put what they're called down in the description. They're really cute. They look like little tiny pumpkins or just seeds in a bag. And some additional supplies. I just Googled farmhouse pumpkin patch clip art, and a bunch of different pictures popped up. I printed those out on the computer. We're also going to need a hot glue gun and a razor blade or a screwdriver, something that you can use to pry the pieces off with. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is start our background. So I have a slab of wood. If you don't, of course, you can use these wooden puzzles. Just remove the puzzle pieces out of the back of it and then glue some of these popsicle sticks onto the side with the puzzle pieces. You want the flat piece of wood to be the front of it and where the puzzle pieces were to be the back. Then we're just going to paint over it with some antiquing wax. You're going to work in small sections and then take your rag and you're just going to rub over top of that to rub off the excess and to rub the wax down into that wood grain. This helps you give like a stain-like appearance without actually having to stain the wood and having that smell, especially inside the house. So then using some white paint, we're just going to do a dry brush technique, just a little tiny bit of paint on the paintbrush and just go over top of it. And then I smoothed that out with a damp rag. And then I went back over top of the white paint with the antiquing wax again, just in some different spots, and rubbed in a circular motion to blend that all in together. And it helped give it like a farmhouse weathered look to the wood. Then taking our ruler and a pencil, I'm just going to use the width of the ruler to create my lines. This is going to give it like a shiplap appearance for the background. So like I said, I just go from one width of the ruler to the next and just keep moving the ruler down the piece of wood, drawing my lines with the pencil. Now I'm able to go over it with some black paint and a small paintbrush. It doesn't matter if the lines are super straight when you're painting this on. The little bit of crookedness to the lines actually helps give it a more weathered look to the background. At least I thought so. And a lot of this is going to be covered up with the truck and the sign that goes at the top. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So now while that's drying, we're going to work on our truck. Now, I used a screwdriver and a straight edge, like a razor blade, to help pry these off. So as you can see, you have to kind of work around the edges a lot to be able to get the screwdriver underneath of it. And you want a small screwdriver so that you can pry this up from the truck. Now, you want to go really slow. I know these trucks are hard to find right now because they sold out pretty quickly. So if you have one, you haven't done anything with it yet, and you're going to try this craft, I don't want you to ruin your truck. So please work really, really slow because I'd feel bad if your truck was ruined. So I also took off the fencing part of the truck at the top. Now laying that on top of our scrapbooking paper, I just traced over that with a pencil, and I did go over it with a marker just so it was easier for you guys to see what I was doing in the craft here, and then cut that out with some scissors. You do want to cut out the windows and the little handle and things with your razor blade or X-Acto knife if you have one. Then lay your paper on top there, and you want to finish drawing out where those tires are going to be, so we're going to be able to see those. So it was kind of hard to do when you were first tracing it. So as you can see, it matches up there, so we'll be able to see the tires once we put the paper on. So this is what it looks like so far. So now taking a regular piece of paper, we're just going to trace over top of where those hubcaps are at and lay that paper on top of our cookie sheet and trace over that, and it's going to give us some little grooves that we can use to follow to cut out the hubcaps for our truck here. And of course you want to cut out 2 of those. So now taking some paint, we're going to paint underneath of where that fencing is going to be replaced once we put that back on. And then I took the brown paint and also did the stems of the pumpkins there. I painted the whole entire tire black all the way around. Of course, I didn't do the hubcap part. That's going to be the cookie sheet. And then I painted the pumpkins orange and let that dry just a little bit. Then I went over the whole edge of the truck with the brown paint. This is so that if the paper doesn't match up exactly, you won't be able to see the plain wood underneath. We're also going to paint the fencing with that light brown. Once I had it completely covered in light brown, I just went back over it with a little bit of black paint to give it kind of a wood grain look to that. So while that's drying, I went ahead and did the Mod Podge all over the truck here where the paper's going to go, and then just put the scrapbooking paper on. So you do want to take your time here and make sure you line it up really well, and of course smooth it out. Make sure you don't put too much Mod Podge on so that your paper doesn't wrinkle. So now I went ahead and did the fenders. Now, as you can see, I did the fenders separate with the paper. The whole reason for taking these off is when you're tracing out the truck on that scrapbooking paper, it's hard to get the exact shape of the fenders, even it just lying the paper on top of it. And I wanted it to have more of like a painted look. And if you just cut it out of the solid sheet of paper, it's hard to really move it around and see where you're going to have the different colors of paint and rust for those fenders. So that's why we took those off. And then again, I just put the silver hubcaps on with some Mod Podge. And then I took some Fix-All adhesive to put on the fenders. You can just use hot glue. Either one will do. And as you can see, I really like the fenders this way. I think it helped to give it that appearance of like paint and different rust spots, so it looked a little bit more natural. I did use a little bit more of that cookie sheet and did the front and back bumper, and then I put the fenders on top of that. So you want to glue those down before you put the fenders on the truck. So this is what it looks like so far. So now where that fencing is going to go back, I just cut up some raffia really small to look like hay. And I put down just a little bit of hot glue and worked in small sections, putting that raffia down to look like it had hay or straw underneath of those pumpkins. And then using the hot glue, we're going to replace that piece of fencing. This gives it even more of a 3D look, which I thought was really fun. I like how the hay is kind of just popping out under the fence and through the little pieces there. It really helped make it look a little bit more authentic. So then the truck looked a little flat to me, so I decided to put some white highlights around some of the pieces of the door and the fenders here. So it's pretty easy to do. You just kind of want to trace wherever there's like a raised edge, and of course along the top of like the hood of the truck and things like that. And then I did put a little bit of highlight on the pumpkins as well. Now that that's done, I flipped it over and put a little bit of raffia on the back so that it looked like we had some raffia behind, or some hay behind the pumpkins. And then I took those little Putka dots, those little miniature pumpkins, and I just kind of glued them all around and layered them so they look like piles of pumpkins in front of those larger pumpkins there. And that is the truck finished. I did put some black circles in the middle of the hubcaps for the truck. And now we'll move on to the sign. So we're just going to paint the whole entire piece of decorative wood white, including the edges, because you are going to see those, but you don't have to paint the back at all. Once that's dry, just taking your clip art, you're going to trace over top of that with a pencil, and then flip that over and go over that with your craft stick. That's going to put the pencil marks on your sign so you can trace those later. So now taking the paint pen, we're just going to go along the whole outside trim with that paint marker so it will stand out. Then I used a Sharpie to write the words at the bottom and the orange Sharpies to go over the pumpkins at the top. You can use a black Sharpie or the paint marker. You don't have to use permanent markers. Mine's going to stay in the house, so I didn't really care if it had just markers on it. So I went over the wording with the black Sharpie, and then I did some shading. And with the pumpkins, I did darker orange towards the top and bottom, and then I did a lighter orange towards the center to give it like a highlight, and went over it with a brown pencil so that it would have some shading as well as the leaves there. And so that's what the sign looks like, just with some paint, Sharpies, and colored pencils. So then I mark where I want my sign to be at the top here, and then put the glue on. And this would help me know exactly where to put it so it was straight once I had the glue on that sign there. So I used a little bit of Fix-All adhesive and some hot glue to glue that on, and then I did use some hot glue to glue the truck on down at the bottom. I also colored in some little dots at the top and bottom to make it look like it had little nail marks. Then taking some ribbon, I just layered it in a bunch of different X's and alternating colors, and then tied that together with some wire and used a little bit of raffia to make a bow as well, and put one of those Putka dots in the center for a little pumpkin. And that's all the bow was. It was very easy to make. You just literally make X's and then tie it in the center. So then I poked 2 holes through the wood at the top, and we're going to take that floral wire and fish that through. I just curled it on a pencil to give it a decorative look there, and then curled it in the front to help hold it through. You can put a little bit of hot glue there as well. So this is the whole thing finished. I love so much how it turned out. I hope you guys do too. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and don't forget to like and share. And here's some other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. Have a great night.